Hey there, it's Trevor Turnbull with Sports Networker, and I'm joined by a Skype right now by Lucas Biebelberg. How's it going, Lucas?
It's doing well, and Trevor, it's nice to meet you over Skype.
Yeah, no doubt, and I'm sure a lot of you, a lot of the people in our community, our network here at Sports Networker will recognize Lucas. He's done a lot of interviews for the site over the last couple of months, and because of that reason, well, a number of reasons, but specifically because of that, I wanted to chat with him so that you guys can all, number one, get to know who he is, uh, hear some of the insights into how he's landing these interviews. He's talking with some big names in sports. You know, he's talking with presidents of NFL teams. And Lucas has got some tips and tricks here, hopefully, that he'll share with everybody. So Lucas, let's first of all start with introducing you to our audience. So tell us a bit about your background and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Well, as Trevor said, my name's Lucas Biebelberg. I'm fairly young, so I'm just starting out in my sports career. Sort of to give you the abbreviated background, I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey. I double majored in political science and criminal justice. So it's unique. I don't come from a business background.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have a good business acumen no matter what you major or minor in. So I went through college thinking I wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer. And my passion's always been in sports, but not just because I love sports, but because I enjoy the business aspect of it. I followed Darren Ravel's career for a while. I followed Brant from ESPN, and these tweets, and the further you dive into it, it's been interesting. So I got lucky. I have a cousin who was able to help me throughout the summer, and he gave me some great advice, which was to connect with my current boss now, Ben Sterner,
Yeah.
who's running a program this summer called the Manhattan Sports Business Academy.
Right.
Ben and I connected, and I was lucky to be accepted into that academy. And Ben Sterner, David Ostreicher. I'm gonna throw a lot of names out because I owe a lot to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw some names out. So David Ostreicher and Ben Sterner. Thankfully, they were good to have me this summer. And basically, what this program consisted of was an internship Monday through Friday from 9 to 6. And then every night, from about 7 to 10, there was a nightly speaker. So maybe a CEO or CMO or a president or an employee from teams, leagues, and brands. So just hearing them speak was very insightful. I learned a lot. Throughout the summer, I interned at a company called 16W Marketing, which is a talent and event marketing company in Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yep.
And the two people I worked for there, Frank Bruno and Steve Rosner, were phenomenal teachers. They have vast experience in the sports industry. And the person I reported to directly, Sean Flannelly, was also great to learn from. He's a young guy as well, so being able to connect with him and learn how he got to where he was sort of helped me get to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Also with this academy, they paired me with a mentor. That's another great thing with this academy. They believe that mentorship is key. And my mentor, Jason Belzer, has helped me great during the summer and has continued to help me even throughout this process. So he's been great. And I guess I showed Ben something throughout the summer that he thought would fit well with the company. So he offered me a position, which I'm currently in, which is the special assistant to the CEO.
Nice.
While there certainly is some administrative work that comes with that, most of it is spent working side by side with Ben on his sponsorship endeavors. So I've had experience in two different fields so far, the talent and athlete marketing and the sponsorship field, but I've learned a lot and it's been great so far.
Nice. And one of those guest speakers, I understand, was our CEO, Lewis House, correct?
It was, Lewis was great. He's also a young guy who's made quite the name for himself. I think he was just named one of the top entrepreneurs under the age of 30.
Yeah.
So he taught us a lot in a brief amount of time. And one of the reasons I got started here was he issued a challenge,
Right.
which was to interview 3 C-level executives by July 28th. At this time, it was the end of June, I think.
Yeah.
And his reward was $100.
Yeah.
To anyone who did it. So I recall very vividly sending him a note saying, it's not a matter of if I do this, it's a matter of when. And I was very determined because he said that nobody had done it in the 2 years that he had offered up this challenge. So I was very determined to do it. Me and one of my good friends from the program, actually, Joshua Lagan, also did it as well.
Yep.
So the two of us were one of Lewis's first 2 people to do it, and that's how I got hooked up here, and I'm happy to be writing for it.
Yeah. Well, let's speak directly to that then, because obviously we know each other well too. We've gone back and forth on emails numerous times. It's the first time actually chatting face to face here. But let's talk about it a bit then. So Lewis put out the challenge to you guys. Where do you start with something like that? Like, were you intimidated at first by that, or did he give you some tips? Did you turn to your mentor, or what was your approach?
I wasn't too much intimidated because, candidly, not much is intimidating to me from that aspect. Public speaking, I'm fine with. Reaching out to people, I don't mind. So in terms of, communication with others, I'm not too intimidated because my mindset is the best that can happen is they email back,
Yep.
and the worst that can happen is they don't. And if they don't, I'm right back to where I started, no more, no less. So what I did was I did some research on who I looked up to the most throughout learning about the sports business, and one of those people was Lee Steinberg, who many will remember as a super agent and one of the inspirations for Jerry Maguire.
Right.
So I reached out to Lee, and again, my mindset was he's probably not going to email back, but at least I gave it a shot, and I can say I did. Well, to my surprise, he actually did email back, and he said he'd be happy to be my first interviewee. So Lee was my first, and I did learn a lot from speaking with him. I learned a lot from where he's been, and more importantly, where he's going.
Yeah.
Then my next interview actually was sort of a passion for me. Everybody, every boy grows up playing Madden, the video game.
Yeah.
Reached out to the lead producer and to see if he would speak to me about what goes into creating the game, and he was nice enough to do that as well. Then I wanted to dive into the teams and the marketing officers for teams. So I reached out to a guy by the name of Sean Flynn, who's the marketing and event development manager for the Miami Marlins. Mm-hmm. And I chose him because I found it unique that the Marlins moved from Florida to Miami. I sort of wanted to know what went into that. And he responded as well, and we set up a time there. And once I completed that challenge, I could have stopped there. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed learning about their stories. So I just sort of, continued to do research on who I found fascinating in the industry, and I continued to reach out.
Mm-hmm. So people you were interested in learning from or had admired or looked up to throughout your path that you're on here right now. Let's talk specifically about how you contacted them. Were you sending emails directly to their personal email addresses? And if so, how were you tracking those down? Or were you using LinkedIn, or was it some other method?
Sure. Well, I'll sort of give away my secret. So basically, there is some due diligence that goes into finding someone's email. For a guy like Lee Steinberg, he doesn't work for a huge, large company. He sort of owns his own company called Steinberg Sports and Entertainment. So that, to find his email, did take me some time to do. But for people like Jamie Roots, who I just interviewed, the president of the Texans, his is a little bit easier because people from those types of teams and companies tend to have a standard email address.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, let's use Coca-Cola, for example. And I'm just making this up. Their standard email might be firstname.lastname@coca-cola.com.
Yeah.
So once you know that formula, you can really plug it in for anyone. So let's use Sports Networker for an example. It's firstname@sportsnetworker.com.
Yeah.
So once you know your email, which is Trevor@sportsnetworker.com. Sorry if you don't want me to give that out.
No, it's public. It's everywhere.
Trevor@sportsnetworker.com. Then from that, you could email Alex or Nick or even Lewis. Just once you know the formula, you can really reach out. Yeah. So there is some due diligence to find that formula, but once you find it, you could pretty much email anyone you want in that company.
And your approach when you first emailed them then too. Like, I know a lot of times we talk during our webinars specifically about a lot of the stuff that you're doing right now in establishing your own personal brand so that people kind of know what to expect when they hear from you. You've got a presence on LinkedIn and everything's in line. But also the approach that you take when you communicate with them. What was the messaging that you used in that first communication, just generally speaking?
One thing I learned from Ben and David over the summer is it's very important to do background research and to connect with someone, but more on a personal level than as to just sending out a standard email saying, hey, this is who I am, I'd love to interview you, let's talk as soon as we can. So basically what I did was I did some research on each person, where they went to school, where their first careers were, and how they really rose to where they have gotten. So let's use one of my interviewees, Mark Lamping, for an example. He's the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars now. he has one of the most diverse backgrounds I've ever came across. He was at Anheuser-Busch, then he was the CEO of the new Meadowlands Stadium Company, then he was the president of the St. Louis Cardinals, and now he's the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So knowing that information really helped me craft my email to Mark. So what I tend to do is I introduce myself a little bit, where basically say where I'm working, how I've gotten connected with Sports Networker. Then I talk a little bit about what Sports Networker is and how they can maybe benefit from the 90,000 plus viewers of the website.
Yep.
And from there, I sort of talk about how I came about their names, what I know about them. And then I say, would you mind speaking for just 10 minutes? I'd love to send you the questions beforehand, let you take a look at them, and if you're interested, I'd love to set it up. And then what tends to happen is, obviously once in a while they certainly won't respond, which is more than okay. I mean, most of these people are more busy than I can even imagine. But the ones that do tend to respond and carbon copy their assistants and say, yeah, I'd love to set it up. Please set it up with my assistant, let's say Jane. And then from there, the assistant and I set it up, and we go from there. And it's been a great process just going from there.
Yeah. So technically speaking then too, and we're getting into a lot of the details here, but I think the biggest thing that I want our audience to learn about is that, you're taking the initiative right now to expand your network in a way where you're just trying to learn from other people, right? And there's a number of approaches to take on this. And of course, communicating with somebody and getting on a Skype video call and recording it and stuff starts to get a little bit complicated. How did you find those challenges as well? Did you find it hard when you first started doing this to not only do it yourself, but even to explain to the other person that, hey, Lee Steinberg, we're going to get you on a webcam, and I'm going to record it and ask the questions. And then, what was the process that you went through? Or did you even tell them specifically what you were doing and the way you were recording the interviews?
I did tell them beforehand in the email sort of what the goal of it was.
Yeah.
And, it actually wasn't hard, mainly thanks to you. I mean, you made it very easy for me to do. You took me step by step. I'm sure you do that for everyone who does interviews. But, it's funny. Lee may kill me for telling you this, but, Lee actually didn't know how to use Skype. So, a lot of these assistants are really the main reason I was able to set these interviews up, because his assistant said, you know what, I'll download Skype, I'll show him how to use it.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll just put the computer in front of him. So, you just fire away from there. So not all these people know how to use Skype. Actually, I would say the majority don't. One of my interviewees actually needed their IT department to download and set it up and everything. So a lot of these people are actually, they're very nice. They're very willing to set it up. And, there aren't too many logistical challenges. The only one would probably be figure out how to record it. And you helped me with that very well. You told me exactly what to download and how to do it. So it's a very easy process, and it records it for you.
Yeah, and we do have training for anybody who wants to do the same thing that Lucas is doing right now. And the reason why I asked you that question is we were joking around about it before we got on the call here even too, is you're always going to have a little bit of before and after when you do a recording, right? And typically, I think probably 4 out of the 6 or so articles that you've done or interviews, you see the assistant on there first saying, hey, Lucas, I got so-and-so, he's coming in, all right, you guys can run with it, So your interviewees a lot of times are just coming into the room, sitting down, and you're firing the questions at them right away.
Exactly right.
So what would you say has been your success rate so far in this as well? Like you mentioned that you've done pretty well, obviously, in communicating and lining up these interviews with NFL presidents and top sports agents and everything else. How many people did you reach out to in order to actually line up these first 5 or 6 interviews?
When I first started reaching out, I'd say I did research and reached out to about 15 people. And of those 15, I'd say about half responded. A lot of them basically said, now's not a good time, but, please feel free to reach out in the near future.
Yeah.
Which is a great email in the sense that they even responded. And then my 3 who did respond, Sean Flynn, Patrick Belanca, and Lee Steinberg, did agree to do it. So I'd say about 50% to start off. Then moving from there, I sort of had the personal goal of reach out to 5 people each week. So, I'd say I've reached out to about 50 or 60 people in total. And of those 50 or 60, I'd probably say 10 to 15 have responded. So while it may seem like a low number, 20 to 25%, to me it's pretty impressive that these people, some of them even respond and say, Lucas, this is something that we're not interested in.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm even happy to hear that from them, because they could just ignore the email.
Yeah.
Instead of saying no thanks, they could just delete the email. But they're being nice, and they're sending a note back. Some even explain why. For an example, I reached out to the general manager of the San Antonio Spurs, and he emailed back and basically said, we're a very low key organization. We'd like to keep it that way. We don't do too many interviews. Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah.
And it was a very candid and honest response, and one I really appreciated.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, you're right, but shooting 25% on your response rate is really good.
Yeah, not bad.
If you're in the cold calling world and you're getting 25% response rates, you're making a lot of money in sales,
exactly.
Right? So, but yeah, no, it's a testament to the approach that you've taken, I think, too, and doing your background research, too, and really kind of personalizing your first message, so it's not just what you're trying to get from them, but actually what you can give them in return in the form of exposure and understanding their story. And we talked about this when we first started too. It's every single person that's in a GM, president, ownership role is in the exact same position that we've all been in our lives. So most of them will, if they don't say yes, at least they'll give you a reason why they would say no.
Right.
So Lucas, let's talk about, where do you want to go with all of this? What's your aspirations in the sports world? Part of why I wanted to do this interview was for the same reason that Ben has seen something in you. I've also seen it as well. You're a rising star in the sports industry, and I don't even know exactly which path it is you want to take. So maybe just let us know, and let everybody else that's watching here too. Where do you want to go with everything?
First of all, I appreciate that very much. It's interesting. A lot of people who get asked that question have an ultimate job in mind, whether it be a commissioner of a league or a president, general manager, or owner of a franchise. I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I have a dream job. What I tend to say is, in 5 or 10 years, I want people to be able to say to someone they talk to about me is, he's good at what he does. And, whether or not that's in the sponsorship department or the athlete marketing department, event marketing, I still find it all very interesting. So I'm still trying to, dip my feet in the water in those different industries. So in terms of an ultimate goal, I don't really know yet. I still find it all very interesting, but one thing I know is that I want people to look at me and say he's good at what he does.
Right.
And he can help build my brand, help leverage my assets, and help drive revenue.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that speaks a lot to the approach that you've taken. You even alluded to it at the start of the interview that you've taken a different approach perhaps than a lot of people do in the sports industry. Typically you'll see an undergrad degree in sports management and possibly an MBA as a path into sports. You're really getting some hands-on experience and growing your network and becoming a constant learner. And I think that's a big thing to take from this for anybody that's watching this video, is that the experience that you can gain and the people that you can meet by just diving in and getting your hands dirty and doing the work, I think can go a long ways in addition to an education. So Lucas, let's maybe end it with this. Based on your experience so far in everything that you've done, what kind of advice would you give to other people that are hoping to make some of the contacts that you've made, or get involved in the Manhattan Sports Business Academy and line up that first internship? What would you say from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely, first and foremost, the Academy was great. That's what I owe my start to, basically. So anyone interested in that should definitely check it out. You can find it at gomsba.com, and learn more about it from there. But basically, for the average person, I would say meet as many people as you can. Just a unique story about that. One of the places that I interviewed for an internship, I met somebody by the name of Dave Morales, and they were sort of full at the time that I interned, but Dave said, "You've got a promising future. Let's definitely stay in touch." And I really took that to heart, because Dave could have just said, "Thanks for coming in," and we could have ended it there. But he was very frank. He said, "You interviewed well. We just don't have the space. I wish we did." And Dave and I have kept in touch all throughout the summer, and he's another one of the people I owe my short success to. Dave Morales has been a great mentor, and just from meeting him in an interview, I was able to build a relationship with him, and he's one of the people I look up to. So just meet as many people as you possibly can. You never know what's gonna come of it. Every speaker who spoke to us, there were kids who just left the room, I tried to walk up to them, introduce myself personally, get their email from them, and I've swapped emails with almost every speaker back and forth because, again, you never know what can happen. May not offer you a job, but they're a good contact to have, and they're just another way to meet another person. For example, let's say I meet somebody in a week and I say, hey, I saw on LinkedIn, Trevor Turnbull. That's just a conversation starter right there. So meet as many people as you can because you never know what the outcome of that's going to be. And then just work hard throughout school. And I'm a big believer in luck comes to those who work hard. So hard work has certainly gotten me to where I am, and hopefully it'll continue to get me to an even higher place in a few years.
Nice. Good stuff. So, and as somebody who's done quite a bit of speaking myself in the past, I can tell you honestly that there's nothing better than getting done speaking to a group of people and have people come up to you and introduce themselves. Really, there's nothing more awkward for a speaker than to be standing up at the front of the room and everybody get up and go, okay, and then they walk out, right? So take those opportunities, and it doesn't matter who it is. Everybody likes to shake a hand and say, great to meet you, really enjoyed the presentation. Here's my information. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to keep in touch with you. Talk to you soon, right? Really simple thing to do, but really great advice there. Lucas, and last thing, how can people contact you and get in touch with you online?
Sure, the best way would either be my LinkedIn or my Twitter, or you can send me an email to lucasb@leverageagency.com.
Perfect. Well, you put my email out there, you better put yours in too. Right?
Exactly.
All right, good stuff. Thanks again for doing this, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and working with you going forward here on Sports Networker too.
You as well. Happy to do it, and it was nice to meet you.